So, how's it going, everyone? Thanks so much for taking the time to get on this webinar, especially with everything going on in the world. It's a little bit crazy right now, but nevertheless, business still has to resume for your publishing business. So, we're going to talk about today how to rank in the top 50 on Amazon. Now, the reason why we're qualified to talk about this is because Sunana was able to reach number 48 in the entire Amazon store last month, and we found a consistent and replicatable approach for success with books in general. So, if in case you don't know Sunana, she's been publishing since 2018. She's been very prolific with her success overall in the industry, and thus she has also started with me Romance Publishing Academy, and we'd like to share with you how you can succeed, especially this year, with publishing on Amazon and reaching a high rank. So I'd like to introduce Sunana.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing great today. And I want to keep this presentation, like you can ask questions, anything that you have on your minds towards the end, like after I'm done presenting. It's not a long presentation, but it's densely packed. So let me know if you have any questions or concerns when I end it. So let's get started. So like Jacob said, this is about ranking in the top 50 on Amazon, and there's a lot of moving parts when you published. I can see that some of you are already experienced and you might want to elevate your business even more. So there's a lot of moving parts in this business, and you might be familiar with some of them. So let's just start and dig deeper.
Sweet.
All right. So this is what we are going to cover. First of all, does having a high rank even help? Like, is it useless to keep pushing your book? When you should push your book? So when is it most beneficial? Do you need a huge fan base in order to achieve a really, really high rank on Amazon? And what you need in order to get there? So these are all the things that we're going to cover. All right. So does a high rank even help? Well, the short answer is yes. If your book is enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, then you are going to have more visibility, more readers, more Kindle Unlimited page reads. And if you do it correctly, then you will have higher profitability. But you have to ask yourself, does the book deserve it? And if you are optimized, and we are going to talk about this in the next slide, but if you're even optimized for the rank, if it's the first book in the series or if it's your first book ever, then you don't have the potential for people to go from book 1 to 2 to your entire backlist. So it's a tricky question. It's always tempting to push every book, but every book is not created equal. Even if it's the same writer, even if you've put the same amount of energy into each one, there's always going to be some books that just do better. They resonate better with readers. And so you have to ask yourself this critical question: does the book even deserve it? And it's one thing to keep pushing your book, and it's another to actually profit from it in the sense that it really helps your brand. And also, when you are that high up, readers just, if they find your book, it can also be like a double-edged sword. So what I mean by that is that if they like the book that they find while you're in the top 100, top 50, or top 30 for that matter, right? So when they see your book and they like what they read, then they are going to want to read your entire backlist. They are going to want to read that second book in the series. But if they don't like it, that's where the problem lies. So there's so many people that have read it already. They didn't like what they read, and they might not want to read future books from you. So you have to make sure that any book that you really, really push heavily, you've put some time and care into it, and you're just not putting marketing dollars and you're not putting marketing time behind something that you think might not even deserve it. So you have to ask this question, and not all books are created equal. All right.
So I guess just to go in there. So I guess the factor is having a book that has that level of quality before you make the decision to actually promote it. Is that what you would say is the factor?
Yes,
Or
that and well, I've seen where two books are, you know, written by the same person. The cover is done by the same person. They both look fantastic, but one
yeah,
book would just do better than the other, just because of any factors. It could be the overall storyline, the
right,
title, the blurb. It's one book just resonates better with the readers, and you can never like pinpoint what exactly it is. But when someone clicks on your ad, when someone clicks on your book and your newsletter, they go to your product page and there's only a few things that they see. So it's easy to figure out of those things, like what what can you change to increase the conversion and what can you do differently. So when you are promoting books, when you have a bunch of books, and
yeah,
you know which ones have done well, which ones haven't, you should try and make a list of things about why you think that with this particular book did well and the other one kind of received a lukewarm response, and kind of see what you can tweak in the future and to increase your conversion. Does that answer your question?
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. All right, so let's keep moving.
sweet.
By the way, can we check if there's anyone that we need to accept in the...
No, I turned
Okay.
off the waiting room.
All right, cool. All right, so when is it most beneficial? Well, I've already talked about like being optimized. So what do I mean by that? So when you are spending a lot of money and time into pushing a book, right, into a high rank, if you have like a sizable like backlist, you have high quality books and read through. So by read through, I mean from book 1 to book 3 to book 2 to book 3 in the same series, or even from like one series to the next. So when you have that quality and when you have the potential of read through, romance never, romance readers never accept cliffhangers. But I use this technique to increase my read through, and this has been like a game changer for me. So I think it's going to be helpful for you too. So even if you do have standalones, so for example, there are two characters in book 1, right? The two main characters, and you cannot have a cliffhanger for those two main characters because people are expecting a happily ever after. They are expecting like a like an ending that is just, it's done. Like the story for those characters is done, and they might appear in like other books in the series, but their story is done. They've gotten their ending, right? But
Right.
In the epilogue, you can totally have like a tiny cliffhanger or like a big cliffhanger for characters that are going to appear in book 2. So people are already familiar with those two characters, or at least one of them from book 1. And then you have like a cliffhanger for those two characters, and people want to know, okay, what happens to these two people that are talked about in the epilogue? And they are already familiar with those characters. So they're more invested in book 2 because they're already familiar with those people, and you've introduce like a little bit of a cliffhanger in the end for them to get more interested, if that makes sense. And by consistent branding, this is what I mean. You don't want to confuse readers. So when someone looks at a product page, like there's tens of thousands of books that are being published every day, right? And you are essentially competing against 70,000 new books on Amazon every day, which is a crazy number if you think about it. That does intimidate me, but not all books are going to be launched the way that we launch books, right? So that's a good thing. But you don't want to confuse readers. So if you have a series, or if you have like, your brand in general. So in terms of branding, your pen name in general is going to have like a certain kind of look, a certain kind of feel, certain kind of stories. And then that's one layer. So when you create a series or you create a bunch of standalones, that's going to have another layer of branding. So you want to make sure that you keep all of those things consistent. So anytime one reader finds your book in the top 100 or top 50, they know exactly where to go to read the next one. So you don't want to confuse them. They need to know exactly where book 2 is, what they're going to expect from book 2, what they're going to expect in the next series. So you don't want to have books all over the place. Just find your sweet spot, find the kind of branding that works for you. For me, it's a certain kind of like light-hearted reads. I don't do mystery. I don't do like dark romance or anything. For me, it's just light-hearted, feel good, romance. So that's what my brand is. It might be different for you, but whatever it is, just keep it consistent, and that's how you retain readers. Reader retention, I would say it's even more important than getting new readers, because it costs you less money. People keep coming back. And if you're going to push one book really hard, then you want to make sure that those people come back and read other books, and they just keep coming back for more. And for you to be able to do that, you have to keep your branding consistent. And again, this is very important. Ask yourself, is the book worth it? So yeah. Delphine, I know that you want to participate. So do you have any questions on this slide or anything?
Oh, no, all good. I was just noting down some things here. I think that was pretty clear. So if I may, just a slight touch there in terms of the branding, I guess it's the premise of the pen name, right? So having a consistency in terms of the themes and the style, that's what you're referring to, right?
Yes. So the style, the overall feel of a story. So for me, if I were to go tomorrow and write a book on like dark romance, yeah, my readers would be like a little bit surprised, because I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And
yeah. Gotcha.
All of my covers look somewhat the same, even though each series has its own branding, but my overall kind of look of my brand is pretty much the same. So even if it were like book one in the series of something that people have never seen before, right? The idea is they should still kind of understand that, okay, they should look at the cover and kind of feel that it's probably my cover. So that kind of consistency is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's putting together a real brand.
Right.
It makes sense.
All right. So let's keep going. All right. So the 3 things that you need to succeed and to really get your books ranking high. Well, the number one thing is high conversion rate. And this also, this has to do with you asking yourself that question: is the book worth it? So how do you calculate like your conversion rate in general? Conversion rate is something that you get when a reader or a person clicks on your page and makes the decision of whether or not to buy. So when you have like a lot of clicks, like say you have like 1,000 clicks per day and you only have like 2 sales, that's really bad conversion rate, right? And if you think about how many things like people see when they click on your page, it's the cover, it's the book description, it's the tropes. And we'll talk about the 4th thing in a little bit. But so these are the things that people see, and the good thing is that you can tweak these things while your book is live. Cover is like a little bit hard to tweak because it does take a while. My covers take like forever to be made. The blurb you can tweak like right away, and you can test them with Facebook ads if you know what you're doing. And tropes. So if people like a series in general and like one book just doesn't do well for some reason, it's probably because they didn't like your tropes. So if everything else was consistent and everything was, in line with the remaining brand that you have for the series or the standalones, the tropes are probably the one thing that didn't resonate with them. So it can be a hit or miss, and you should never keep yourself from taking risks. I wouldn't say take a risk with like your first book or your first like 3 books or whatever, because you're still learning the business. But once you're like a little bit established, you're in a healthy position and you kind of know what you're doing, don't be afraid to take risks with like different kinds of tropes and different kinds of storylines, and just experiment with things, because we do operate under the notion of like fitting into a subgenre. And it's incredibly important to do that, because romance readers are very particular. They're voracious readers. They know what they want out of a book. And you know those things too. Like there are certain rules that you just cannot break. There has to be a happy for now or happily ever after in the end. There cannot be cheating. There cannot be cliffhangers, right? So all of those things within those confines and fitting in, you still want to find a way to stand out, because like I said, there's so many books published every day, And you really have to ask yourself, why should a reader pick my book over the one that's sitting next to me in the also box? What is it about your book? You could have some distinct thing about your cover that kind of sets you apart, something distinct about the way that you write book descriptions that sets you apart, or the risk that you took with tropes. So look at all of these things, see where you can differentiate yourself while also kind of fitting into the subgenre that you are that you're writing in. Does that Delphine, does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering if anyone else has some questions. There's a couple of things running through my mind here, but this makes a lot of sense. It's really just taking things to that next level. I know we have some people here online right now that work directly with us, but we'll be sharing the recording as well. So for anyone listening that works with us directly, this is really just taking things to that next level and bringing some structure to how you're running your business. It makes a lot of sense to me. It's phenomenal stuff. Really brings some structure and some density to the business model. No questions for me on this section here.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so the number 2 thing that you need to really consider while climbing, and climbing significantly to the level where you're in the top 100, top 50, top 30, right? You need cheap clicks. So everyone is interested in learning Facebook ads, but and AMS ads and BookBub ads and all of those things, right? But paid ads are not a magic bullet. And why do I say that? You can end up wasting a lot of money. First of all, if you don't know what you're doing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You should just consider it as tuition for you, like learning. When I have made some huge mistakes with Facebook ads. When I started, my first book that I ran Facebook ads on, I lost like $700. And this one time, if you've had like these kinds of stories, then it might make you feel better to hear this. But this one time, I had a book that I was advertising, and I was planning on spending a few $100s that day. And what happened was that my link was broken. So people that were clicking on my ad, they were clicking on it, so I was getting clicks, but they weren't being taken to the product page on Amazon. So I ended up wasting a lot of money that day, and I learned my lesson. So now I double check my links, right? And every person that runs Facebook ads is always going to have like that kind of a story. And that's something that Dave Chesson said to me when I told him that I did something like that. But everyone is going to have those crazy stories. You will too. It's just part of learning Facebook ads, and that shouldn't be something that you should be afraid of. Now, you need cheap clicks because obviously if your clicks are expensive, it's just going to take you that much more money. It's going to take you, you're just going to end up wasting that much more money. So how do you get cheap clicks? For one, you have to remember that this platform, especially Facebook, and I'm not talking like Amazon ads, because on Amazon, people are primarily there to shop. On Facebook, people want to be entertained. So they're not looking to shop. They're there to be entertained, talk to their family, friends, look at cat videos, whatever, right? So you cannot sell to them. You cannot be like, hey, buy this book now. You can't like put those sentences in a way, one click now, download and KU, whatever. But you also have to make sure that you are entertaining them. So you're telling a story. This is a creative business, and that's something that people forget when they get too deep into marketing. They forget that this whole business is based on creativity, finding ways to entertain people. That's what our books are about. That's what the marketing should be about as well. So when you are creating your ad images, your ad copy, so when you are creating like all those things, you have to make sure that you are telling a story, and your ad copy should not only complement your book, but you also have to make sure that it's going to persuade people to buy the book more than the book itself. So they not only click on your ad, but they're like more inclined to buy after reading your ad copy. So you have that one chance to get that impression on someone, right? And similarly with ad images, it should tell a story, even though it's just one image. Even if you don't have any text on it, it should be, first of all, it should be eye-catching, but not eye-catching to the point where it's just too bright. And when you do that, when your ad images are too bright and when you're just trying too hard, your images end up looking actually like ads. And us as humans, we are programmed to just glance over the ads and just move on to the next thing, right? So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need to, like, again, the same principle, fit in while standing out. You need to fit in the sense that people just think that it's part of their newsfeed, your ad images and your ad copies. Like, it's just something that their friends might have posted. So then that way they stop and they look. But your ad image should be eye-catching enough that it still tells a story, even if there's no text on it. So use your tropes. Like if it's like a pregnancy trope, then have like a pregnant woman on it. If it's a bad boy alpha, have a guy with like tattoos on it, or something like that. Like, don't have a dull image that just doesn't catch attention, but also don't look that much like an ad that people just like glance over and don't want to read anything that you have to say. I hope that makes sense, because it's still, it's again, it's a principle of fitting in while standing out. And the last thing that I wanted to cover with cheap clicks and Facebook ads and whatnot is frequent monitoring. Now, there is always the biggest con of ranking that high is that when you're running ads, you're just going to have to monitor frequently. There's no reason to sugarcoat it. So you probably, unless you are outsourcing your ads, the more high up you are, the more you're going to have to babysit your ads. That's just the way it is. So even at a lower rank, when you're not used to running Facebook ads, I'd say just go look at your ads at least like 3 or 4 times a day, just to make sure that none of them are rejected. I've had times where I ran like a bunch of ads for a month, and suddenly, all of a sudden, they just got rejected when I needed them the most, when the book was, like when I really wanted to push the book. They just rejected it for no reason, and I had no idea why. So I had to tweak a lot of things, and since then I've learned the kind of things that I need to avoid in order to to avoid rejections. But my point is that you definitely need to frequently monitor your books. You make sure that they're not all of a sudden rejected. Make sure that you're not getting like inflated prices for your clicks, that your targeting is good. If you need to create new ads, you need to be able to do this every single day. And if you don't have the time for it, you should probably outsource it if you really want to rank. So that there's some babysitting that goes into these ads, and it's annoying, but it is what it is. All right, so number 3, consistency. All right, so Amazon loves consistency. That there is no, there's no secret there. They love consistency. They love when people establish a sales history. So what do I mean by that? You don't want like a spike in the sense that you don't want 100 sales on day 1 and 2 sales on day 2. And 1 sale on like day 3, and then another 50 on day 4, and then just stop advertising. Like, you don't want to be that volatile. I've been there, I've done that, because I thought that maybe like spiking on day 1 is just going to set me up for success, and that's all I had to do. But you actually need to sustain your book for a longer period of time. So ask yourself, like, what's your budget? What's your time? How much time do you have to really promote your book? Because you do have to sustain that level for as long as you can. It might not be possible for you to do so. And after 30 days, the book does get old, and Amazon stops favoring it as much. But you want to make sure that you keep your sales consistent, your daily traffic consistent, and your page reach as consistent as you can. Obviously, things are still going to fluctuate. And it's never a bad thing to have a lot of sales in one day. So Amazon's not going to be like, hey, why did you have like 100 sales on day 1 and 50 on day 2? No, it's not. It's never bad to promote your book as much as you can. The only thing is you should try and keep that trend either upwards or consistent. So Amazon knows that, okay, this book gets like the same amount of traffic every day. It's like, it's going at a steady rate. It's increasing steadily. It's not like on a downward path. So when you do that, it's more inclined to understand, the algorithm is more inclined to understand that, okay, this book sells. So that what's that telling the algorithm? That it can stay where it is, and Amazon can start promoting it because people actually do want to read it. And this also goes back to our point where we talked about the high conversion rate. So a conversion rate is also telling Amazon that, okay, people are clicking on this book, they're seeing this page, and they're buying the book, right? So those are the kinds of things that you need to tell Amazon and really work and really have these things like work in your favor. So don't work against yourself. Work along with the Amazon's algorithm. And these are the kinds of things that the platform really appreciates and likes.
Yeah,
I
makes a
think.
lot of sense. Makes a
All
lot of
right,
sense.
so I think this is it for the presentation, and we have this link, romancepublishingacademy.com/apply. So if you want to learn more, if you have more questions and you want to dive deeper into your business, just book a call with us. There's no pressure to buy. We can just, dive deep into your into what you're doing right now and see, for one, like see if we can work together, if we are a good fit. If not, we'll just help you on the call regardless, and maybe hopefully you will get some value out of it. And now with that, here's Jacob back again.
So I hope you all enjoyed that and got value. We'll all be available for questions. So for this webinar, feel free to use the chat, and let's get some questions answered and help you all out. So that's what we're here for. So
yeah, that was great. It made a lot of sense. I was actually reading something yesterday on, let me turn my alarm off, on like some strategies, just kind of familiarizing myself with recent launch strategies. And something that this particular individual was putting a lot of emphasis on was on the consistency, the third point that you mentioned. And I actually had a question regarding that. Yeah, how do you, so maintaining consistency is just what kind of maintaining your ad spend over an amount of time, and what does that then equal? What does that, what is the beneficial result for the publisher? So what would happen with the specific book that they've just launched or that they're marketing?
Like if you keep the traffic consistent, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what I've noticed is that because this webinar is about like achieving rank, right? What I've noticed is that if you are going on like a volatile path and you have like a lot of sales on one day and like barely anything on the next day, it's going to be harder for you to achieve rank, for one. Even if you are going like consistently every day for like 2 weeks, it's still going to be hard. But if you have a trajectory that you're just like kind of increasing like every day, like bit by bit by bit, you're going to have a higher chance of one, achieving whatever rank that you want. And second, really being able to sustain it. So instead of putting all of your marketing dollars, energy, and effort into like day one or even day three, just increase like bit by bit by bit, so you don't have to sustain that level of like marketing over a long period of time. Like you're just slowly getting there. So that's one way to do it. But my rule of thumb is that if I am spending like whatever, or if I am like putting that much energy into marketing, I want to like sustain it for as long as I can. So I mean, see how like what your resources look like, see how much time you have, because like I said, if you are running paid ads to a book that is going to be high in rank, it is just going to take that much more energy and effort on your part. If you're not used to it, it might burn you out because it is kind of overwhelming and intimidating when you are running ads on like a high budget, or if you just have to manage a lot of things like while doing that. So
yeah,
so it's not just like a fancy looking shiny rank. There's a lot of things that go behind it, and you have to ask yourself, one, is the book worth it? And second, if you even have the time or resources for it.
We got a question from Joe, our good buddy Joe. Hey, hope you're doing well. Good to have you here. He asks, if all your books in a series are standalone, would you run ads for all the books in the series, or just on that, or the that has the highest conversion rate, or the one that has the conversion rate, I believe?
That's a really good question. For all my books in a series, I might not run ads to each book in a series, because I know that I will get read through from people from like book 1 to book 2 to book 3. With standalones, right, the good thing is that, well, each book is a standalone. Like even in a series, I call them standalones because each book has a clear start and an end, because they can be read in any order. So they are essentially standalones, right? But if they're not in a series, the good thing about, and if there's no cliffhangers, the good thing about KU is that you can achieve the same result with each book if you do put like that much energy and effort like behind like every book. That being said, if you are releasing 2 books a month, 3 books a month, 4 books a month, you have multiple pen names. It might not be possible to run ads to each book, even if it's a series or a standalone, whatever. Sometimes you need a break. People need a break, right? And if you have like that many books every month, or even like 1 book a month, and if you are writing your own books, it can get a little like hard to manage. If you're putting that much money and effort behind every book, you're gonna burn out. So it is a good idea to think of each book as something that you might like, you want to look at it, see how well it's converting, and put your resources behind the best performing book. If you have a large team, and if you can just like outsource a lot of tasks and manage running ads and manage marketing each book equally, more power to you. A lot of people are not there yet. So that is also something that you need to ask yourself.
Sweet. I'm really curious, for the lucky ones that are on here live, is anyone that, like, for instance, hasn't started spending money on marketing, and perhaps you have some questions, a little bit of uncertainty, because not everyone, or at least some people, do go down the advertising route, but they just don't know how to set it up correctly. So I'm wondering if anyone is kind of thinking about it and they're unsure. You have some questions. I mean, now is the time. You have Sue and Jacob here. They're exceptional. They're absolutely killing it when it comes to marketing. So anyone with any questions in that regards? I know, Joe, you're already running ads, right? You use ads, I think, right? You mentioned last time. Does anyone have any other questions? I see we got, okay. Yeah, he says he's running ads. Yeah, anyone have any questions about getting started with the ads? So I just seeing conversations around. I think that's a lot of people aren't actually involved in it yet, and this is like the best opportunity to kind of get your questions out and get some insight from these lovely people. And yeah, that was a awesome presentation, Sue. Really some good value there. Really puts things in perspective. Anyone have any questions?
Don't be shy, guys, especially if you're not new to ads. I actually recognize most of the names in this webinar. So even if you're more intermediate, let's get going with the questions. And we have Eddie here with question number 1.
What is the ideal word count for a good romance story that we can price at $2.99 or more? Is 50K words or 60K words? All right, so everything I answer is going to be very subjective, and it depends on what the goals of the person is, right? 30,000 words is not a bad place to start for someone who doesn't have as many resources when starting out. You just want to remember that getting enough page reads on a 30,000 word book with Facebook ads is probably not going to be ideal. So you want to make sure that if you have like a short book, then you are releasing frequently. So one book is building off from the other, right? So you're kind of snowballing that way. And if you are running ads to a 30,000 word book, then you are making money in the back end on your next book. So that is one scenario where I might not even run ads to like each book, So if it's a 30,000 word book, I might just do it on like one book, or conversely have book 1 or one of these, and this is very valuable actually. You want to make a note of this. So maybe the first book you want to run ads to is, let's say, like 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, and then the sequels are shorter books. So you are relying on read through on the remaining books, and you're really pushing like one of the books in the series and just having the other ones kind of piggyback off of the first book. And so it basically comes down to like what you want to do with the marketing. And $2.99 in terms of price, personally, I think that 99 cents is short for like a 30,000 words is short for like a $2.99 price point. For one, people like to read longer books. They like to be engaged in the storylines and whatnot. So for one, you will get some negative reviews about the short book. And if it's priced at $2.99, you might even get like like a lot of bad reviews, right? Because one, the book is more expensive. Second, it's shorter. So, but the good thing is that it also comes down to branding. If you build a brand like to begin with, people that like short books, like someone like Madison Faye or Alexa Riley, they only did short books, right? Like 50 pages, 100 pages. So they never did longer books. But the good thing was that their fan base liked shorter books. They were unapologetic about it. They said that, okay, we only do like insta love. So if you want like a slow burn, angsty book, like don't come to us. Like, but we're not going to change our writing style. That's essentially what they said with their branding. So if you want to go that route, you have to like build your brand like from the beginning. But you can't be producing 70,000 word books and like suddenly go to like 20,000 and expect everyone to be okay with it. Then you should just be ready for like some critical reviews. So I hope that answers the question. For $2.99, I would still say like 50,000 words or longer. All right, Sylvia has a question. What's a good conversion rate for a 99-cent book and $2.99? Well, the conversion rate is a little bit hard to calculate because you have a lot of marketing going. You have Facebook ads, you have your own newsletters, you have newsletter swaps. So you don't really know where the sales are coming from, right? For me, the reason why I didn't mention a specific conversion rate in my presentation was because I look at I've released enough books to kind of be able to tell if a book is converting well. So I can say that, okay, for 99-cent book, a 8% conversion rate on your clicks, or $2.99 book, 2%, but that's oversimplifying things because you don't know where the sales are coming from. So you might find, and this has happened with me, you might find that, okay, well, I have all my newsletter swaps have run out and now the conversion rate has suddenly fallen. And I was working on the idea that the book is like converting way better than it actually is. So that happens when one form of marketing like kind of slows down. Then you actually figure out that, okay, the book is probably not doing as well as I thought it was, right? So I think you do need experience with publishing more books to really be able to like figure out if a book is converting well. And you should be able to see it within the first like 3 days. You just have exponentially more page reads than you did with the previous one. You just have more sales in general than you did with the previous one. And that's how you know that, okay, this book is probably working better than the previous one and the conversion rate is higher.
So we've got a lot of questions coming in now. Next one is from Rohit.
Oh.
He says, I run an ad since March, which was going okay, but recently got a low quality notice. Any suggestions why it happened and what's the solution?
If you got a low quality notice, that's probably because people reported your typos to Amazon, and Amazon flagged your book and asked you to correct those typos and republish the book. Not republish, but like hit publish again after you correct the manuscript, upload the new one. And that's probably what happened. If it wasn't regarding that, like I'm not sure what happened with your book, but when you hover around your low quality sign on your product page, it usually shows like why it's been flagged for low quality. It's probably because of typos. So once you go into your dashboard and you correct your manuscript, like you should be good to go and you shouldn't have that thing saying that anymore.
To clarify, Rohit, if you go to your KDP dashboard, there's a section for quality notices. And if that is present, the quality notice dashboard will show you what exact typos have been reported by readers and what needs to be rectified. And once you have that sorted out and all the corrections are made, the quality notices go away and you can resume with having a normal looking product page.
All right. I hope that answers that question.
He says, Rohit just added, just before moving on to the next one, he adds, I got a low quality notice on my Facebook ad, not on KDP dashboard.
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense. So a low quality notice, I usually get those signs when there's too much text on my ad. So that could be a reason. That's usually what Facebook tells me is going on when they give me a low quality notice. So I don't have the link right now, but you can test your images. You can upload them on this service that Facebook has. Upload them and see if Facebook kind of approves this level of text on your ad. If it says that it's
the overlay, right?
I'm sorry?
It's the overlay thing, right?
It's not the overlay thing, it's the amount of text that you put on your ad. So in
Okay.
general, if you have like too much text, Facebook is gonna not run it as a normal ad.
Right.
I'm not sure why that is, but you can have text on your, well, initially starting out, actually, I used to not put any text on my images because my ads would just optimize better without any text on them. But now I'm finding that there's really no difference between having some text and having no text. So I always put like either my title, my book title, or like my cover if it's acceptable for Facebook. I put those things on my cover, and if I have that text on my ad image and Facebook's giving me a low quality notice, that usually means that the text is either too big, it's taking too much space on the image itself. And there's a way to test that. Like if you Google something on the
Yeah, it's text overlay.
text overlay. Oh,
Yeah, it is. I just posted the link.
okay,
Oh,
cool.
actually, I sent it to
Yeah.
Ariana.
So that's
I'm sending it
probably what's going on. But I mean, I have no text on my, it's just the image. Well, then I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with your ad, like why it's giving you a low quality notice. But it could also be the, what is it called? Like the resolution of the image.
Yeah, make sure that you have at least, I would say, 300 DPI on your image. Make sure it's not some low quality JPEG for the cover. As long as that's in check.
Yeah, I mean, there's different reasons why it would say that your ad is low quality. What you can do is either change the image and see if that gets approved, or see that if that is running optimally, or ask them, or like ask them why it's happening. You can like get on a chat or whatever and ask them like why it's happening. I usually don't go through all of that. I just change the image and I get on my way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The
Let's
next question was from
Fiona?
Fiona.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you run ads to book bundles, or do you only run them to single books?
Well, I'll take this question as I do have experience with running ads on book bundles. You certainly can run, of course, ads to book bundles with Facebook. What I would say, though, is you don't want to, this spend strategy would be a lot different from singular titles. So, running even just $100 a day or $200 a day on a bundle is more than sufficient. I would never try to push a bundle too high on rank, as evidently, if you look at even the top 200, it's very unlikely you'll ever see a bundle on the charts of Amazon. So what you want to do with bundles is just do a lower spend strategy. Focus on getting page reads if you're in KU, assumingly. Hopefully you're also full price if you want to go that route. And then try to make an immediate profit off the bundle. So it's not where you want to be running ads for 2 weeks and hope you break even by day 14 or 15. Objectively, you do want to be profitable out the gate with running ads on bundles. So I would advocate low spend. But yeah, absolutely run ads on bundles.
Sweet. Fabulous. And Eddie followed up as well with, what is the best romance to self-publish right now? Yeah, actually, Eddie, I saw your questions in the group. Thanks for jumping in the end. Yeah, so he asks about subgenres. What are you guys, what would you add to that?
Well, the best way to answer this question, well, there's really no best subgenre. For one, it depends on what you are most interested in. For me, it's contemporary romance. I also like paranormal to an extent. There's a lot of things in paranormal that don't interest me and I don't see myself publishing at all. You want to make sure that you like enjoy and like what you are publishing, because what I've found is that when you put care and love into your pen name, it just performs better. As opposed to just publishing something that you think is lucrative, but you don't really like it. I am passionate about contemporary romance. I really like it, and I think that's why it works for me. I mean, I've spoken to some people that straight up tell me that I don't even know what would go into a billionaire romance. Like I can't even picture it. For me, that's the case with like Faye Academy romance. Like I'm just like, I don't even know like what I would do if I were to publish in those tropes, right? So you have to ask yourself, like, one, what you're interested in, and then second, see if what you're interested in has a demand and if there's like a sizable market for those types of books. But in general, contemporary is very lucrative. Paranormal is very lucrative. Even sweet romance is very lucrative. But there's the ways to market each subgenre is very, very different. So there's different strategies that work for PNR that might not necessarily work for contemporary. So, but all of those things you can get into after. If you ask me, and if I'm helping you like pick a subgenre, we're probably gonna go over all of those different strategies before you make that decision, because it is a very important decision. You are gonna start building your brand in like a particular subgenre, and you should be informed of all of those different like moving parts for each one.
Phenomenal. Yeah, actually, to add to that too, and that's actually something we noticed working with you. You're very meticulous about how you want things done, and yeah, it's clear that you have an understanding of the market that you're operating in, and I guess is why you do so well. You actually take the time to understand the product that you're selling. So yeah, I think that's a great suggestion you mentioned there.
Thank you. Well, also another thing that I do want to add is that, and I say this all the time, Jacob and I talk about this all the time, it is a creative business. It's not just marketing. It is about entertainment. It is about good books. And people seem to forget that this is an author business, and the people that are buying the books are actual people, actual readers that want to be entertained. So if you put like that much care into your books and you make sure that they're entertaining, they're just going to perform better. Like there's just no two ways about it. So
Yeah.
make sure that you are actually interested in what you're publishing, that you have some heart into it. Yeah.
Sweet. So Alvin follows up, and the questions are coming in. Amazing. So Alvin says, "Hi Sue, how do you ensure KU page reads? How do you ensure KU page reads consistency? It seems so unpredictable, as some readers are in KU while others would just buy the book, which will result in book sales."
See, the thing is, you cannot control everything. Page reads are going to go up and down, but the idea is that if they go from like 52,000 to 60,000, that's not really a big difference, right? So you're still maintaining that consistency. When I say consistency, I don't mean like 50,000 every day, or like you just cannot deviate from that number. No, what I mean is like you're putting that much effort, the same amount of effort into your marketing today as you did yesterday. So that's what I mean by consistency. Apart from that, there's not all the parts and all the elements that you can control. And Jacob wants
Well,
to add.
I'd like to add, though, to clarify Alvin's question, on a technical basis, what you can better do to ensure consistency with KU page reads, make sure you have a quality book that readers actually want to read from start to finish. So I'm speaking from experience. I've had books that I've marketed effectively that I thought would perform, but the page reads weren't coming in to the degree that I expected them to. And a reason for that can be either issues with storyline or quality, where readers aren't finishing the book, despite you having conversions and all of that for sales. Make sure that you've got editing done for your book. There's no typos, that the story's good. You don't want anything triggering, like some crazy controversial event the first 25% of the book. And you've got a product that people actually want to read from start to finish. And that will always provide more consistency with page reads when you do a launch. And it will overall boost your sales when you've got books that people actually like, other than just your super fans who will always read your books. The common person clicking on your ad and buying your book should be reading it from start to finish, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about it from your own perspective as a reader, so imagine you open a book and there's like typos on like page 3, 4, and 5. You're gonna be like, okay, this book is totally useless. I'm not gonna.
Such a turnoff.
Yeah, it's a turnoff. You don't want to read the whole thing, and if you are on the other side and you're the author, that's not gonna give you page reads.
Nope.
Right. So the good thing that Amazon has done with the page reads thing, like now it's changed from what it was like years ago, is it's forced people to really elevate their game and produce quality books. And all the changes that I see like every 5 or 6 months or every year or whatever, it's always for the betterment of their customers. They're always looking to better the customer experience. That's what the company stands for. And you really, even if something is not in the terms of service, it's not in like the general guidelines, just use your common sense and like see, okay, are my readers going to like it? Are they going to want to read this? Is this the type of story that they want? Because ultimately Amazon's goal is to really elevate that customer experience. So that's the kind of perspective that you need to be thinking from.
That's phenomenal stuff. We have some question here from Fiona, which was, do you run paid promos in newsletter services, i.e. My Romance Reads, BookBub, and if, yeah, essentially, are you using the swaps, and how many during a launch?
That's a good question. I do buy one promo every now and then, not a lot. But I don't go too heavy with promos. Also because I am very data oriented. I like to have my numbers straight, and that kind of makes everything mucky, right? So the way I do newsletter swaps, and I've talked about this in one of the live videos in my group. I try to schedule these things, and I schedule like newsletter swaps after I already know how the book is doing. So I'll monitor it just on my own with ads or my own newsletter or whatever, and see like, is it resonating with the readers? Am I getting like better page views than I did from the last book, or at least as many? How is the book doing before I introduce all of these different elements into my marketing that I can't necessarily control?
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Okay, we have a few more here. So we have one here from Alvin. So Alvin was actually adding that he publishes young adult fantasy romance, mainly in the action and adventure, fairy tale, fantasy genre. Do you cover that genre too? I ask because it seems like a different genre to romance due to the inclusion of world building elements. Well, you have world building elements in other romance subgenres. I'd say that right off the bat. But yeah, the question essentially is, do you cover that genre too? And the genre being young adult fantasy romance books.
So I'll answer that question.
Mainly, yeah, go ahead.
So, well, there can be world building even in contemporary. Actually, we were talking about this a few days ago, and I really want to do a bunch of books that are, I don't know if I'll actually do this, but I love world building, and I have, it's a lot of fun. I've seen books in contemporary where it's like a royal city, and like there's all these princes and princesses like in as main characters, and it's a fictional city. So that is like a form of world building, right? It doesn't really on the marketing front, if that's what we are kind of working on, then I wouldn't necessarily be involved in your actual storyline, but the main ideas and the main principles of the marketing still remain the same. So no matter like what subgenre you're in terms of romance, all the things are gonna, obviously, like I said, each subgenre has its own way of like marketing and its own like different strategies that vary like a little bit here and there from one subgenre to the next. So there is going to be like different strategies that we would employ for like a series that is built like that. But overall, I'd say like 80% it is going to be like consistent in terms of like how we market all the other books.
I think we actually skipped a question also from up above from Fiona with regards to whether we have run video ads for books on Facebook.
I think that's still to come.
No, it was in there. I saw it.
Oh.
And I'll answer that real quickly. So I have run ads last year for video for a brief bit, and from what I saw on yields, conversions were below average. So I think it's actually for books, video ads are nothing more than just glorified GIFs, and it doesn't really add to the whole experience like an ad for a book. So and it's also a little bit too avant-garde. So I think romance readers are very accustomed to seeing images for ads, and they're more than happy to just see that and click. So maybe ads one day will work better with video for books, but for the time being, we wholeheartedly recommend just sticking with images.
Well, the reason for that is, okay, so I'm like kind of torn between these two things. Like for me, it depends on like how much hype you want to create with the book, right? So if it's like your book second or third in the series, or what, if there's a book that you really like and you're really confident it's going to do well, right? It depends on like how much hype you want to create. So with video ads are very good to collect data for. So you can see how much of the video a person has watched. You can create lookalike audiences, do all of those fancy things about Facebook ads. But for someone who is just starting Facebook ads, and I am assuming that most people here are still kind of experimenting with Facebook ads. To start, like, don't try a lot of different things to begin with. Start with like a a basic image, basic text. See how that goes. Get really good at it, and then get into the other elements. I wouldn't say video ads are totally useless because it does give you data. It does give you information on the number of people that have like seen your whatever, like 3 seconds or 6 seconds
Duration.
or whatever duration of your ad, and then you can create like a lookalike audience like from that pool. So it can be valuable data, but my number one rule when I am working or when I'm teaching someone to do Facebook ads is to really keep things simple. Like, that's my number one rule of Facebook ads. Keep things simple and keep your headache like minimal. So if you're just getting into it, just don't pull yourself into every direction trying to do everything right. Just stick with like the basics, and it's totally possible to run a really, really good campaign for a book with just image and text. So I hope that makes sense.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so we addressed this one. We had another question from Eddie, which he was essentially just mentioning what he is currently working on. So he didn't have a lot of success with paranormal, and he's now focusing on Western romance in the Mail or the Bride and Scottish. Well, I assume this is also what he's doing: Mail or the Bride and Scottish romance. Mm-hmm. He's producing 60,000 word books and pricing them at 99 cents, as that's what the competitors in those subgenres are pricing their books. That's how much they're pricing their books at. And an actual question.
Maybe there's one below, but Eddie and I have talked before in private. Eddie, without giving too much of your personal info away, I think what we can say openly is that, you've seen with Scottish romance particularly, that bigger publishing houses have proliferated that subgenre, and so it's harder for you to compete alongside those bigger publishing houses that have a much higher marketing budget, etc. Without knowing too much of your individual situation with your actual catalog, we can't tell like why your P&R brand might have tanked without more info. If you have a question about what you with books going forward, either let's clarify what you want to ask, or hey, even schedule a call after this, and we'll go more into your personal brand where we have some more confidentiality with handling your situation.
Yeah, and I mean, since you did mention like 99 cents, I personally don't particularly like 99 cents, but it's totally possible to make a lot of money with 99 cents. So it's really the kind of direction that you want to go in. If you see your competitors, pricing their books at 99 cents, and if you don't want to do that, dig deeper and see what is the maximum price point that people are going for in your subgenre. So for contemporary, that's usually like $4.99. People don't usually, and I've talked about this in my live video too, they don't usually price above $4.99 unless they've been in the business for 10 years and they just have that kind of fan base. So see the maximum that they're willing to go with their price point and just experiment with like different prices. But with that being said, you can totally make a lot of money with 99 cents. So it's just a different strategy, and it's just what you're comfortable with at this point.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to launching a new pen name, how many books would you recommend? 1, 3, 5? This was a question from Fiona.
I'm not sure how to answer that because you do launch one book at a time. So, so if you've launched one book, that means that you've launched a new pen name, right? If I recommend launching 3 books at once when you're writing a new pen name, probably not. But if it's like your second, third, fourth pen name and you just really want to go hard, I still wouldn't recommend 3 books a month starting out, unless they're shorter books and it's making sense in readers' heads. Like, okay, this person can realistically produce 2 30K books a month or 3 20K books a month. Like, that makes more sense in their heads, right? So if you're publishing like 3 50K books a month, like readers are going to be like, what the heck? Like, that's not even realistically possible. So you want to keep their expectations in mind when you are launching books, like even if it's a new pen name or like an existing pen name.
Sweet, brilliant. And Eddie also had a third question, which was how to craft an enticing romance series plot that will entice readers to read in one sitting.
Okay, so I do follow a structure for my plots, and well, instead of like going really deep into like how I do my plotting, and I plot all my books. In Yeah, so without going like too deep into it, I'd say that you want to make sure that you are covering all the romance beats. So with romance, it's not just storyline. So there's like external and internal storyline. So internal storyline is your actual romance book, right? Like your actual romance story and the connection between the two characters. For the external is all of this. There's subplots, there's the actual world that's operating like around them. So you wanna have like a good balance between those two things for your story to even like feel and sound cohesive, and like something that could be seen as something that's realistic. And by realistic, I don't mean like it doesn't have to be limited to just human beings, because if you are publishing paranormal, you can have these shifters and these animals and whatnot, right? So that's not realistic, but it does feel believable that a shifter character can do something that you're asking them to do in the book. So as long as they feel like the people can like relate to your characters, that's a huge win. And if they can relate to it, they have connected to your book, they've connected to your characters, and they probably want to read the next book. So that's how much I'll talk about like that question.
And we had a question as well from Fiona, which was on Facebook ads for audio.
Okay,
Do you have any?
Facebook ads to audiobooks. So actually, surprisingly, yeah, I have seen like breaking even on the cost with audiobooks compared to ad spend. What's nice about audiobooks is that the royalty per sale is much higher than what you would yield from like a 99-cent ebook or even a $2.99 full price title. So yeah, in experience, we have run ads for audiobooks, but in practice right now, we currently don't run ads through Facebook. I'm a big fan of just organic means, like using your email list, your Facebook group if you have a reader group, to give out blasts and promos. One thing I'll add too, since we're on this topic, even though it's a little bit of a diversion, is that even though we have limitations now on promo codes moving forward, I would absolutely still utilize promo codes to get reviews for your books. And reason being, other than just having social credibility for your books being reviewed, well, hopefully, is that I still believe, from what I can see with the algorithm on Audible, that reviews still weigh into the organic ranking of your audiobook in the Audible product page. So you definitely still want to get reviews, and what better way to do that than give away free copies of your audiobook in exchange for an honest review. So yeah.
Phenomenal stuff. Great stuff. And I think we have one last question here from Eddie, which is a lengthier one. He asks, when you run Facebook ads for a new book, are you using conversion rate objective or PPE objective? And I guess your landing page will be your Amazon product page. That's the first question. Is it a conversion objective or PPE objective? And then how many ad sets do you use, and how much daily budget do you allocate to your initial launching of that new book?
Yeah, that's an advanced question. I'll simplify it a little bit so everyone can understand what I'm saying. If you are new to Facebook ads, I primarily run traffic ads, so that answers the first part. And the second part, how many ad sets I use? Well, so that depends on my budget. If it's like a very high budget, then I have to have more ad sets. If it's like a $20, $10 budget for a book, then one ad set will suffice.
Yeah, but if you're like actually launching a book on a serious level, don't just rely on one ad set or even one image, God, to promote like a book for $100 per day. You want to keep testing, and yeah, don't.
And yeah, one thing I will add is that Facebook likes options. It likes to have options, and it likes new creative. So you always want to keep refreshing your creatives. You always want to keep giving Facebook what it wants.
Ads can go stale fast.
Yeah, it can go stale fast, and people get bored of like. See, the thing is that an audience of 1 million people is nothing for Facebook. It's literally nothing for Facebook.
It's like one day's worth of.
So you have to ask yourself, like, okay, if I have like one image or one ad out, like 4 ads, is that going to be like enough? If the answer is no, and when you're running a high budget ad, you're reaching a lot of people every day, then you probably need more ad sets.
Sweet stuff. No, you guys have been phenomenal. I hope everyone's really benefited from this. This really, brings a lot of structure to everything. I'm wondering, does anyone else have any final questions, perhaps? Well, Eddie says, thanks. I think that was excellent. Really, really good stuff. And I guess, for everyone that works with us at hotghostwriter.com that is watching, if you do want to find out a little bit more about, marketing your books, because on the production side at Hot Ghost Writer, of course, we believe we do an exceptional job in terms of the creation, right? And these are a lot of elements that we understand, and we have an amazing team when it comes to the production of romance books and pretty much every subgenre under the sun. But when it comes to the marketing, it's vital to really have a solid structure. And that's why, we wanted to bring in Sue and Jacob from over at Romance Publishing Academy. So anyone that's watching that wants to know a little bit more and dive a little bit deeper when it comes to marketing your books and really branding the right way, do check out these lovely guys. The link, what was the link, guys, to book a call with you?
romancepublishingacademy.com/apply.
Okay, so yeah, brilliant. So Romance Publishing Academy/apply. They'll hop on a call with you, discuss a little bit more about your business model and your objectives, and you can continue to expand, grow your business, solidify yourselves, and hit those goals for 2020. So really excited. Thanks for it's been a great one, and I'm wondering if anyone has any other questions, or if there's
Any
any final words, guys? Eddie, one more question if you want. You guys, okay, here we go.
Hot Ghostwriters.
Hot Ghostwriter question.
Okay, he had a question. Eddie has a question for us. So, do your ghostwriters know how to create a series outline for a romance subgenre, for example, Western romance for like 10 books? Yeah, so we actually follow the 3-act structure for the most part when it comes to outlining. So, it's a very collaborative process as well if you want to share your own ideas. So that's no issue at all. That's actually a service we include. So the way we kind of structured the outline, again, it's following a 3-act structure, ensuring that you have all those elements there. Some of the things that Sue touched on, like the internal arc, external arc, some of those are elements that, of course, we take into consideration. And it just allows us to plot everything out. You get a breakdown of all the chapters, all the key, the turning points, all that good stuff. Yes to that first question. And then the following, do your clients need to submit the plot outline for each individual book? So I guess we can either produce it for you, or you can actually, I sense here, so do your clients need to submit the plot outline? So if it's the actual outline you're referring to, you can provide it if you wish, or we can, of course, produce that together with you. So as I mentioned, the way we operate, it's a very collaborative, a very open space. So communication is open. You can see the outline being developed. You interact directly with the team that you're working with. And you can brainstorm. The writer that will work on your piece, we always assign it based on the subgenre. So if you're producing, as you said here, Western romance, you'll have a writer that's proficient and familiar with that subgenre, so that they can also bring forth a lot of creativity, a lot of ideas in line with what the market actually desires. And that just brings on another thing that I will add there is we tend to focus, it fits in perfectly with what you mentioned, which is fitting in while standing out. So we like to write to market, but at the same time bringing in some fresh elements. So I hope that answers your question, Eddie. Anything, just reach out to the team. We also have our accounts manager, Aliona, on the call here. So whenever you reach out, you'll be interacting with her as well. She can help you out with any questions you may have. And Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Hope you've
Thank
gotten
you
some great value.
for co-hosting.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks, everyone.
And yeah, I'll be
Thanks.
sharing out
Do it
this
again, guys.
recording as well.
See you all later.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank